All new now at 6, coral reefs are dying in the Caribbean. What started as a coral disease outbreak off the coast of Miami-Dade County in 2014 has now spread along the state of Florida and beyond. Scientists call this epidemic stony coral tissue loss disease. Our Washington, D.C. bureau reporter Samantha Jo Roth traveled to the Florida Keys to take a closer look at this emerging underwater disaster.
Off the southern tip of Florida, this is what many consider paradise. Clear skies, warm crystal blue waters, and calm conditions. But looks can be deceiving.
You can look at it from a boat, but it doesn't look anything like what you see underwater.
Beneath the surface, stony coral tissue loss disease is raging like an inferno in these reefs. Ron Stein has lived and worked as a boat operator here for 10 years. He takes divers to Lou Key Reef, known as the crown jewel of the Florida Keys. But he says it's quickly becoming an underwater graveyard.
The biggest decline has just been in the last year to 18 months with this new disease. I came down here in the 80s originally, and it was totally different.
Over 20,000 visitors come here every year, and many have no idea this fragile underwater ecosystem could be at risk of extinction.
Daily, we hear people talk about how beautiful it is and how great this coral is, and we know that it's dying quickly, but they don't know what they have nothing to compare it to. But the coral itself is in trouble.
The disease causes the tissue of the coral to degrade and fall off, turning vibrant reefs white as they die. We saw firsthand how the disease is progressing out on the water with researchers from Nova Southeastern University.
The white that we talk about, it's not that the coral is turning white. It's not like bleaching. It's white because the skeleton is bare and dead. The tissue has died where the white is, and that isn't going to necessarily come back.
The outbreak started in the Miami area and spread north up the coast of Florida, then splintered south across the Caribbean, carried by the current. 38 of 40 reef sites in the Florida Keys have been impacted by the disease.
There are some really large, really old coral heads here at Lou, 15, 20 feet tall, some of them, and a few of them that we weren't able to get to, just a matter of weeks, they disappeared. And these things are hundreds, if some of them maybe even thousands of years old. So it's a really tough process to see happen that quickly.
The cause still uncertain.
We're still collecting even kind of initial data.
These scientists, led by Karen Neely, suspect it's bacterial and spread through the water. But warming seas, pollution, development, and climate change may have contributed.
I think there's a lot of similarities between how we should be treating coral diseases and how we should be treating human diseases. For example, when you go in with some sort of injury, the first thing that people will tell you to do is to stop doing injurious things to yourself. And we don't really do that in the ocean. We still come out and use reef-destroying sunscreens and allow for coral bleaching. You know, there's still a lot of stressors that these sick corals are undergoing.
Documenting and logging the destruction is a major objective for this crew, and the nature of the work can get emotional.
We do a lot of crying underwater. There's definitely, you get to new sites or you come back to areas and the disease is still really prevalent.
These men and women aren't giving up. They're taking things day by day as they search for solutions.
It's in the ocean, so this is a problem that isn't right in your face all the time. It's a tough problem to know is even going on. So getting the word out, doing these kinds of things is some of the best tools in our toolbox right now.
Reporting off the coast of the Florida Keys, Samantha Jo Roth, Spectrum News 13.
Tomorrow on Spectrum News 13, we'll show you the hands-on battle that team is waging to stop the spread of this coral disease.
We've got continuing coverage tonight on a deadly disease currently devastating Florida's reefs. 6 years after scientists discovered a coral disease off the coast of Miami, it's now spread to nearly all of our state's reefs, and it can be found as far away as the Dominican Republic. Well, yesterday we told you about the infection known as stony coral tissue loss, and tonight our Samantha Jo Roth shows what's being done to protect paradise.
There isn't a whole lot of coral left in the Southeast Florida region.
3 miles off the Florida Keys, 4 scientists in a small boat are racing to stop a mysterious killer.
I think people would be very shocked to know that within 2 weeks, a small colony can be dead.
Karen Neely, a coral ecologist at Nova Southeastern University, is leading this group, attempting to slow the infection and fight to preserve what remains.
Scientists and marine biologists spend a lot of time documenting particularly declines of ecosystems, and we're actually one of the few that are lucky enough to be able to get out here and try to do something about it.
A different kind of way to start your morning.
We joined the team on one of their medical missions to treat the coral. Researcher Kevin McCauley and the group mix up antibiotics into paste, filling dozens of syringes with the concoction.
The amoxicillin, though, is obviously the really important part. That's what's doing the hard work, actually stopping this disease.
Up in this area might be a good area for you to head to first.
And then it's go time.
Thank you.
This is a hands-on kind of job. Scientists apply the formula directly onto the tissue of the sick coral. Then the paste slowly releases the drug.
Just like that, right onto the face of the coral, right onto that disease margin. It's a pretty obvious disease margin. There's a big white line right up against healthy tissue on the coral, so it's an obvious one to see.
I think most of us don't have fingerprints at this point because we're applying it to the corals, but whatever it takes.
The researchers document their findings, marking when they provide treatment with nails and large yellow tags.
We go back to the coral, we look around, look where the nails are and see if there's any active disease to see if that treatment was effective or ineffective.
This is one of the most coral-dense areas these researchers treat. They've tagged up to 800 corals here, and without their intervention, they aren't sure if there would be any left.
We were out here a couple weeks ago looking for some other corals for another type of project. And as we looked around, we realized that everything here was either dead or had been treated by us.
Neely's group has been implementing this method for a little over a year, and they've seen an 85% success rate. In a disease outbreak that typically kills 66 to 100% of the corals infected, the team has lost less than 1% of the corals they've treated. But it's challenging and labor-intensive to keep going underwater for a cure.
It is exhausting. It's hard on the body. It's hard on the soul for sure. Watching your backyard disappear is really hard.
We don't know necessarily when's the next time that we'll be able to come back to the site. Weather dependent and other factors play into it, so we try the best we can to go as quickly and effectively as possible.
These 4 researchers are the only ones providing these types of unique treatments in the Keys.
It's also really hard to have to bypass certain corals because we need to focus on the ones that are the most important for the ecosystem, and just kind of swimming by an animal that is in distress and going to die and having to say, sorry, good luck.
At the end of the day, this dedicated crew compare notes and reflect on the greater mission. Researchers in other parts of the Caribbean have now started using their same method to save corals infected by this very disease.
It's a good feel-good to know that without us, this reef would look very different than it does, not just now, but 5 years from now and probably 500 years from now.
Reporting from Lou Key Reefs, Samantha Jo Roth, Spectrum, Bay News 9.
And that treatment, discovered and implemented in the Florida Keys by the team at Nova Southeastern University, has been used to save more than 2,000 coral reefs across the Florida Reef Tract, including in Biscayne National Park off mainland Florida.
It's been called the worst coral disease outbreak ever recorded anywhere in the world. This week, we've shown you how the stony coral tissue loss disease has ravaged much of the coral reefs off the coast of Florida, and how scientists are working frantically to prevent the loss of this underwater world. As our Samantha Jo Roth found out, more funding and resources are needed to protect paradise.
Our time is very valuable.
The coral that grows along Florida's coast is under assault from disease. And this group of researchers from Nova Southeastern University are the first line of defense.
That's enough motivation to keep you going for all hours.
Michelle Dobler is the newest addition to this small team, working to treat as many patients as quickly as possible.
We can make our tanks last between 1.5 to 2 hours. My team does way better on that. They go about 2 hours or longer. I'm about an hour and a half, but we come right back on the boat, grab a little bit of water, and we hop back in.
While the antibiotic treatments have been effective, there's a lot of territory to cover.
I think our big limitation right now is manpower. Having 4 people treating the entirety of the Florida Keys is kind of ludicrous. And so just having the money and the people to come out and be able to go to more sites and to treat more corals is really, I think, the only way that we're going to be able to have any impact on a lot of these reefs in the short term.
The Florida Department of Environmental Protection hired this group to treat coral infected by the disease. This project had a budget of a little over $341,000 this fiscal year. Since this method is so new, there's a lot of uncertainty about future funding.
Every year we have to get refunded, and right up until about the week before, we're not sure if we're going to have a job again the next year to keep doing this. So having a little more stable funding and maybe even a little bit more might be helpful.
The federal government provided over $26 million to restore coral reefs across the country. Of that, nearly $3.5 million went directly to the state of Florida. The state chipped in as well, bringing the total to $5 million to support various projects like this one. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle recognize that's not nearly enough.
It's absolutely critical that we get this reauthorization and millions of federal dollars down to help out Florida.
Representative Darren Soto and Senator Marco Rubio are working to revive the Coral Reef Conservation Act, which expired 20 years ago. Their legislation would provide $160 million of federal funding for the next 5 years. Whether these bills will make it to the floor for a vote in either chamber is an open question.
It's not really an issue that we've struggled to find support for. It's more been an issue of getting things passed, anything passed up here. For example, the funding is part of a funding bill that right now is tied up in broader issues that have nothing to do with coral reefs.
The federal government needs to be a partner. I mean, we all, nationwide, we all enjoy Florida. Last year we had 126 million tourists that come to Florida, and so we've got all have to be part of, protecting what we have.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, too, is working with public and private partners to raise $100 million to combat the crisis in the Florida Keys. But they have not met that fundraising goal just yet. This is one of the last living reefs off the coast of Florida, a reality that is now reaching the surface.
We need money, we need bodies, we need regulatory approval, we need to do all of these things quickly. This is a disease epidemic, and every minute we waste is a minute that it's just getting that much worse.
Reporting from Lukey Reef, Samantha Jo Roth, Spectrum News 13.